Welcome to enVisioning Success, the weekly podcast that's your prescription for business clarity. In today's episode, we identify 5 essential topics to consider when choosing between internal or external marketing. Laura Di Benedetto, joined by co-host Julia Becker-Collins, discuss the particular organizational elements which can help guide your decision, including your scalability goals, your budget, and your leadership, role, and management preferences. Tune in for invaluable insights on envisioning success.
Hello and welcome to enVisioning Success. I'm Laura Di Benedetto, joined by the lovely and talented Julia Becker-Collins. And today we're going to rock your world. And we're going to talk to you about choosing between hiring internally or engaging an agency. I have to tell you, this is a juicy topic, one that I'm super stoked to jump into, only because we have this conversation approximately every Thursday. So we're going to dive into this with a lot of abandon. Man, we got a lot to say. So, strap in. Get ready to listen. Take some notes. You might really want to think about this one. This will hopefully give you a bountiful buffet of food for thought. Anyway, we are Vision. Vision is a marketing company, and we're the proud hosts of this show. Also, not for nothing, celebrating our 25-year anniversary. And I founded the company. Therefore, I am old, and I'm fine with this. But old people know things, so you should listen to this show. Anyway, Julia, thanks for joining me to do this. Yet again, I love recording the show with you. Do you love this topic or do you love this topic?
I love this topic. This is a great topic. It's not an exaggeration to say that I literally had this conversation with a potential client 2 days ago. And this is a topic that comes up very regularly.
Yeah. In fact, I was just having this conversation about a half an hour ago before we hit record. I was speaking with one of our customers from another business that I have, and he's like, yeah, I had some people internally and I don't know. I don't really know how to manage them. I was like, ooh, there's point number 1 for why you should not hire internally, because they need a leader. If you can't lead,
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the implementation. It's the strategy. It's the leadership. It's getting somebody out of their own way.
Yep. So there's a lot of meat on this bone. Man, I've been thinking about this for years, whether I want to or not, because almost every sales conversation that we have with a prospective client, usually they're either leaving a bad agency relationship or they're just entering one for the first time, and they've been around for a while, right? So they've probably been in charge of doing the sales themselves, or they're really successful word of mouth, but there is kind of a ceiling on word of mouth. And they're like, well, we need marketing. Do we hire someone? Do we do it internally? Do we have a hybrid? And that's a big conversation. And the answer is my favorite answer ever. It depends.
It does depend. Absolutely. I was having a meeting yesterday with somebody and they asked me an unrelated question. And I was like, I'm going to give you the answer that every marketer gives that nobody wants to hear. It depends. And it's the truth most of the time is that it depends on the unique situation, which is why marketing is not a one-size-fits-all solution. And you really need to be customizing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's very true. So we've got 5 actionable tips for you here, and we're going to walk you through those. Julia, why don't you give us the first one?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first actionable tip when you're deciding to hire somebody internally to manage your marketing or outsource it to a marketing agency is to evaluate your marketing needs and goals. And maybe this seems obvious, but we at Vision don't like to assume things and we like to educate. So we are coming from a place of everything you might need to review. And honestly, just because you might realize you should do this doesn't mean you are doing this. So we're starting from there. You really want to assess the complexity and scope of your marketing needs and requirements and wants, needs, requirements. And for specialized or high scale campaigns, an agency might offer higher breadth and depth of expertise rather than hiring internally, because when you hire an agency, ideally, what you're getting is a number of subject matter experts that are very well trained at what they're doing. And it's a very short onboarding process. versus hiring internally, which can sometimes be the same cost. And we'll get into cost in a little bit, but it takes a long time to train a person. As somebody that is currently hiring right now, I can tell you point blank, it takes a very long time to post the job, interview the person, vet the person, hire the person, train the person, and now you're 6 months later and you haven't gotten anything out of it. So, do you have an urgent need? Do you have something that's highly specialized? Do you need both an SEO expert and a photographer, which you're most likely not going to find in the same body because they're very different parts of somebody's brain.
Yes, that's very true. I'm sorry for your hiring woes.
And
I'm so glad it's your job and not mine.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
Sucks to be good at HR, huh?
Yeah, it does sometimes. Why don't you tell us the next one?
Sure. Let me add to this one first. I think that sometimes people don't factor in the necessity of management. And that includes providing leadership. You can't just plunk somebody into the role and be like, here you go, and just wind them up like a wind-up toy and be like, okay, go be awesome. That's very difficult to do. You actually have to have internal structure and a good benchmark to help you to decide if you can hire internally, and you should, is if you have the means to bring on a full marketing team internally. If your company is large enough that you can support a CMO plus a cadre of people underneath them, so that way you do have the proper leadership, then you should.
Right.
You can always have an agency help and do specialized tasks, but most people, a lot of the people that we speak to in the $5 to $50 million range, they're not ready to hire a full marketing department. It's much cheaper and much less aggravating and challenging to just outsource. I'd be like, my favorite though is, can you just do it? Yep. Got that one the other day. So anyway, there's this. Which parts of these would you like to do? None. Okay. Sounds good. All right, let me get into the second one here. So you do want to consider the cost implications. And this is really kind of dovetails off of what I was just saying about hiring a full-time employee. You're going to need more than just one person if you really want to be able to have proper marketing done for you, because as Julia said, there are different skills that live inside of different people. Their right-brained things and left-brained things often do not mix. And sometimes there's many different disciplines within just the left brain and right brain. Those don't mix as well. So some people are really, really good at writing, but they're not really good at strategy, for example. Those are different skill sets. So, when you think about the skills that you need to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish that will bring on the sales that you ultimately want to bring on, because that's why we're here, right? You have to consider the cost implication of not just having one person, but all the people that you need to actually pull off this crazy harebrained plan of yours. You need the strategy, you need the execution, and probably the execution is going to be a couple people. So you have to compare the cost of hiring full-time employees, including benefits, onboarding, that awful nightmare that Julia just described, training and resources versus agency fees. And well, not to toot my own horn, but toot, agencies can often be more cost effective just because of shared resources. You don't need the people on our staff full time, which is great. You can have this one for 3 hours a month, this one for 8 hours a month, and you don't have to be their boss. Someone else is, and you don't have to worry about insurance and taxes and whatever. And if they screw up, who cares?
Right.
The agency will fix it.
Right.
Right.
It's not just that they are solving a larger problem of the marketing. You have one fewer person to oversee. And like you were saying, there's all kinds of additional costs beyond just a base salary. So if you're hiring somebody at $80K a year for marketing, and they're kind of a mid-range person, it's not $80K, as I'm sure everybody listening knows. It's so much more than that because of the taxes and the benefits and the 401k and the training and how much time are other people going to spend with that person, et cetera, et cetera. Professional development opportunities. Are they going to need to travel, et cetera, versus spending that same $80K with an agency and then it's just the $80K. So it really is, a cost savings.
Oh, yeah. And you don't have to pay for things like maternity leave or
Right.
FMLA or whatever. Like there are advantages. I mean, obviously we're going to, be very biased towards the agency side because this is what we do and we're very clear on the benefit that we provide. However, we're also very objective. There are times when it makes more sense to hire internally, 100%. In the case of a destination that we work with, it makes a lot of sense for them to have one person dedicated to partner with the agency that the agency oversees. That makes a ton of sense. So that's a hybrid model.
I just had this conversation with a potential client who is interested in hiring us. And she's great, but she doesn't have the financial resources to hire us, which is okay. And I also don't think she has enough specialization to need the breadth and depth of what we bring to the table. She's selling products, which is not exactly what we do, but we can do it. And she really needs to be hyper local, which we are. But she also needs somebody on site, like you were talking about with the service provider. She needs somebody to be taking photos regularly. She needs somebody there to, deal with the ins and outs of things. And so the conversation that we had was about us coming on in a consultative role to help her hire a part-time person who was probably fresh out of college, had previously had an internship in marketing. So they weren't, completely unaware of what to be doing. We would help manage the hiring. We would help train them. And then we would come on board as a fractional CMO to oversee the work and deal with the strategy. So it kind of solves a lot of things for her. And also because she doesn't have the scale of what would require an agency like ours, it's a smaller cost and it fits her needs better.
Solid. Yeah. So there are instances where it does work, but you need to be very honest with yourself about that. So far we've talked about evaluating your marketing needs, considering the cost implications. Julia, why don't you tell us about control preferences?
Yes, I would love to. So assessing your control preferences. If, like we've been talking about, direct oversight of the marketing and of the marketing person and close collaboration are really crucial to you, an internal hire might be preferable, sort of like what we've been talking about. Sometimes that is the correct choice. If you need somebody on site every day or 5 days a week, then that is important to you. If you have somebody there that can do the oversight and really be on top of it, that's great for you. That could work really well, versus agencies can offer a larger set of resources and capabilities without the overhead, but we wouldn't be on site every day. So it's definitely like a give and take.
Oh, for sure. This reminds me of one of my very first jobs. This is a person, you're going to love this one. He's the reason I hate the word nomenclature.
Oh boy.
This guy was the king of micromanagement. I remember he would not let me put anything in the recycling bin. He had to rifle through it first. So if you're a little maniacal and, dare I say, batshit crazy, and you want to have a lot of micromanagement control over your employees, A, seek help. B, an internal person that can put up with all your insanity might be a better choice than an agency because they can't be micromanaged.
Correct. I had a CEO I worked for once years ago who sat me down to look at my spending and said that the file folders I was buying could have been 5 cents per folder cheaper. And I wanted to know why the CEO was staring at the cost of the file folders. So that's some next level micromanagement that doesn't work with an agency.
Yeah, no. If you're happy to set it and forget it and just know that someone's just got it handled, that's definitely going to be better for you, particularly if you're like our destination client who just said, can you just do it? They're a perfect candidate for an agency because they don't have to be involved with it, to manage it. They don't want to know. They don't want to be in the weeds.
Exactly.
We'll be in the weeds for you. No problem.
Exactly.
All right. The next one is scalability.
Love it.
Scalability is something that people don't always think about. The first three are generally a little bit more common, but this one tends to be a little bit more rare. What are you going to do when your marketing needs fluctuate? Are you just going to fire someone and lay them off? Because oftentimes once you've got someone on full time, you can't be like, hey, can you work less hours this week? That's no bueno. People don't really like that. So flexibility is really nice. And, the thing about an agency model that is useful to you versus having inflexibility with flexibility, scalability. There we go.
Words are hard.
Words. Of course, it's Thursday because that's what we do here.
Of course, we're recording on a Thursday.
We've talked about this. We get punchy. So, you really want to think about what an agency is capable of and how they can withstand it. Because it's a shared model, one person on the agency team might be responsible for like 15 accounts. If you don't need that one particular thing, those person's hours can be reallocated. They can, absorb the hit better than you can, which actually helps you to take on less risk and also not feel like a schmuck if you have to reduce or quickly scale up. If you find that things are working really great, which that's the point, you want to be able to scale up quickly and turn up the heat at a moment's notice. Well, that's going to be tough because Julia just outlined the nightmarish process of bringing someone onto our team, which is awful. We're also very picky, so that, as we should be. But by the time they're actually trained and ready to go, that's like 6 months, man.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have 6 months if things really just start to get some good grip for you? Do you have 6 months or do you need now?
Right.
So scalability is something to consider if, alternatively, you have a very static, flat need that you don't anticipate going up or down. And even if things get a little weird, you can handle it. Maybe internal is better for you.
Yes, agreed.
What's number 5?
Well, we've touched on this a little bit, but as I said at the top, we don't want to assume things. So number 5 is to check for specialized skills. Identify if your marketing strategies require specialized skills such as photography, data analysis, SEO, videography, video editing, et cetera, skills that are hard. Oh, Laura.
Oh,
Laura has a question.
Laura has a question in the studio. Hi, my name's Laura. I'm from Vision. So I have a question. How often are people assuming that the things that you just listed off are not specialized skills?
Oh, like 99.9999.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. They are specialized skills because photography. Oh, wow. That's a great camera. No, it's the person using it. Wow. That's a really nice article. Yeah. It's the person that wrote it. It's the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, do go on.
That's incredibly true. We joke around at Vision that I have no sense of design. I can't look at graphic design or photography and tell you if it's good, but I can build you the best data sheet that's ever existed because it's very different parts of what somebody's good at. And it's very specialized. So the person on our staff, who's the photographer, has been trained to be a photographer, just like she has been trained to be a graphic designer. Those are really challenging to find, those kinds of specializations, and to develop them internally. So I often talk about knowing what your resources are, your time, your money, and your expertise. And this is where expertise falls in. So if you have somebody who's like a low-level marketing person on your team, I am sure they are good at certain things, but there is no way they are good at everything because nobody is good at everything. Agencies often have a wider array of specialized skills readily available than hiring a generalist internally.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think, to kind of continue my point, when you assume that the things that you need are easy for people to do, you're really screwing yourself over. You're also kind of insulting the person doing it. That's just an aside. Just photography, for example. I know enough about it to know that I'm good with a lowercase g. I am not great, right? But you need to know about lighting. You need to know about camera settings. You need to know about apertures and this and that and positioning. And there's also different types of photography. There's food, there's products, there's flat lay, there's people, there's situations, there's editorial, there's blah, 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 blah. There's so much to it. And to dismiss something you don't understand as simple because you don't understand it, it's a huge mistake. So, this is where I do like tools like ChatGPT, especially since all their recent crazy updates. You can ask the algorithm what makes this particular role a complicated role. So you can actually learn what it is that a person needs to be good at, needs to think about, etc. That way you can decide, Am I going to be really successful at finding and managing this person and giving them what they need and nourishing them so I can get what I need? Or does this make sense for me to just kind of have a fractional person inside of an agency who's already an expert at it?
Yeah. And I think you're raising a great point, because if you, the person who would be supervising the person, doesn't know anything about that specialized skill, it makes it very hard to supervise that skill.
Yep.
So I'm not good at visuals, but I can look at something and tell you if there's problems with it, versus I can't actually do the design for you, but I know enough. Just like I know enough about social media marketing, I know enough about web design, et cetera, just enough to like manage it, versus supervising somebody if you have no sense of anything that they're doing. That makes it really challenging for both people.
Well, right. In your case, given your role as the COO of our company, your job is to be the classic generalist. You're supposed to be slightly good at everything that we offer. And you are exactly that. You happen to be very good in a couple different areas, strategy being one of them. But like your job is not to be the expert at it, but it's to know what expertise looks like. So then you can tell when other people have gotten it right, offer them guidance. And that's a valuable skill. So hats off to you.
Thank you. I put myself on mute there for a second because the dog was barking.
Yeah, I heard her. I was like, hello, doggo.
I listen to this podcast where they both have dogs and cats, and you can hear them in the background.
It's amazing. I'm looking forward to when Serafina hops up on my desk and we hear
Cutie.
I won't be upset about it. Anyway, thanks for listening to this episode. We're really excited to just help you make good decisions. Do we hope that you want to work with us? Of course we do. But we also recognize that we are not the perfect fit for every company out there. Also, if you're looking to start your business, we don't really work with startups anymore. We've outgrown that. This is a great show for people who are not necessarily ready to bring on an agency, but they're kind of growing and learning. But more than anything, we're just so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for listening. Just as a loving reminder, if you have topics that are really kind of tickling your brain and you want to know about, go to vision-advertising.com. Don't forget the damn dash. Make sure you go there, shoot us a note through the website, and let us know what you want us to talk about. We make these shows for you, so just let us know. These are topics that we've curated based on conversations that we have with our clients and things that we face out in the wild. And, it's fun. So next episode, we're going to be talking about some of the more specific benefits of partnering with a marketing agency. We're going to probably do a little deeper drill down. This was more of an objective look at it. The next episode will be more deep dive. So anywho, please like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever else there is to do. Do your homework, do your thing. Be a pal. That's it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.